most free when I'm watching work. You know, and by free I mean like creative, the ability to actually feel like I'm thinking. You know, when I'm watching something, that's like a really important place for me. And if I have that experience in a film, I think that's a political space.
Yeah.
I want to say that, you know. So for me, it has a lot to do with manipulation or lack thereof. How can I actually feel like there's an opening that's being created? And that's what I would wish as my political act as a filmmaker in this world.
So then the extension would be the strategies you use in your work is to kind of inspire that openness?
I hope so, yeah. I mean, you know, and to get like nitty gritty about it, there's a million ways, I guess, to go about that. But for me, I'm really interested in sound and the way the sound image relationship works, and how that these are like, you know, kind of parallel tracks that have a lot of slippage, as we like to say. That could like be in a very expansive place that you can live inside of. So I try to work back and forth across the sound and the image a lot in order to create more space for the spectator. It sounds a little goofy, but it works, I think.
Well, I was going to ask about sound image strategies in all of your work. So, Natasha, do you want to talk about that at all too?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing about using sound, and I think that for me, it's a 50-50 relationship. I am a process-based filmmaker, so I'll start off on. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I think that like I have a certain kind of philosophy about like this mind-body connection, and if you're working on a certain it sounds really like Eastern philosophy, which it is. And I think that like I like to work on like taking an idea or reading up as much as possible about a certain kind. Like for example, this film about the monsoons in Bombay, and I mean, looking at how. You know, reading newspaper reports and being there myself and experiencing what happened to my family house, and you know, but at the same time, like when I'm shooting, then I just kind of like let it all just simmer and work with the image like that. And in the same way, I like to work with the sound like that. I mean, I take my time, I record a lot, and you know, then somehow I like the disjuncture between using sound that is not native to the image a lot, and I think that creates a certain kind of space that you were just talking about.
It sounds like you're talking about research as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Anything to say about that?
You had such good answers.
I know.
We should just keep going.
Well, can I ask you then, because I think in terms of last night's performance, did you start with a script? I mean, did sound start, or did you start with images, or how did that process come about?
Well, the movie started just with the 4 parts, and I hoped, without any explanation, I shot all 4 parts and edited together and hoped that it would all add up to saying something. And I showed it to people, and they were totally baffled. My friend said this makes no sense whatsoever. So I begrudgingly accepted the fact that it needed some explanation, and was very stuck for a while because I'd never made a voiceover movie or anything like that. And eventually started writing stuff and kind of like sticking my toe and talking, and it kind of developed from there. And then it became this movie that the words, you know, it's sort of an essay film. There's a lot of words in it. So I didn't start off that way, but it ended up that way. And then the editing process is, it's like editing a movie where you write some and cut images and then adjust the words. It's a complicated, it was a different way of working. I'd never worked that way with so much writing, or writing being at the center of the sort of editing process.
I feel like you're talking about research too, you know, and it's like we all get very interested or attracted to a certain subject, and you just sink in and you try to learn everything you can about it. And every film, it's not evident all the time when you see people's work that that's what's going on, you know. So you were doing all that research anyway.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with Shambhavi Kaur, whose film showed, and we were talking like in her film, there's this, it has a soundtrack from like a Bollywood sci-fi film, and for me, like I didn't know that it was a sci-fi film, but I knew it was Bollywood, and I thought that it was just, like knowing that really informs your experience experience of watching the film. And I think that like even in my film, like, you know, certain sound clips have like everything to do with the monsoons, even though you don't necessarily see water. Like I took this idea of like the Bollywood rain sequences that are, you know, wet Sarris, and used a lot of like clippings from there within like a landscape that doesn't have anything to do with it. So I think sound in a way for me really places you, like allows you to imagine, you know, and gives you context.
Yeah. So this is a horrible room to ask questions in because it will be hard to hear you in the back, but I'm going to repeat your question. So let's see what kind of questions we get. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question when you started about impulse. It seems like I wonder if you could think of the question impulse and impulse 2, and if that's correct, you could tell me what the impulse 2 is for each of you.
So the question is about the idea of impulse and thinking about expanding on that a little bit, if I can paraphrase what you said, and extending it so you would say the impulse 2, and then finish that statement for each of you in terms of your work. And I guess you mean generally, why do they make work?
Yeah,
Okay.
impulse.
Okay. You want Sam, you want to start?
Sure. I guess for me, I get very interested or struck by things, as a story or a picture or an encounter with somebody or even a detail. And often I think for me it would be an impulse to understand what that attraction is about, or that it's even an obsession sometimes, and try to communicate something about that. So like Esperanto, I love this story of Esperanto. I love the flag, the people, the kind of earnestness of it, the idealism. There's something, I literally love it. And so I have an infinite capacity to mull it over or look into it. And I guess it is at the heart of it just trying to figure out what is that about. But I'm not doing it in a vacuum. I like to also kind of communicate some of at least my feelings about it. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to concur. I might call it observation as well. Like, I need to observe this. I need to see how it's behaving, and I want to learn something from it. And I don't know what that thing I want to learn is. I don't know. So I just keep looking and keep looking. And I like to imagine that my desire for learning about it is present, and that you're feeling that desire to learn about it too simultaneously. So it's a very alive process.
I like to have an interface of a lens or like a sound recording device to whatever I'm going through in my life. So right now it's got to do with like visa, should I go back, should I stay? Like, so I'm making work right now about like immigration and the idea of like boundaries and borders. And so anything that I'm currently, like, it comes back to the stone philosophy about like this mind body, whatever's like occupying my mind in my life. I try to find a way to deal with it in a way that is creative or something. I mean, I don't need to, it can just be like sketches